All right, so let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining our event today, Building Python Projects for Resume Booster with Elaine. This week's topic is cloud development, working Google Cloud, API, and developer things. And I'm going to introduce our speaker. So Elaine Chan. Elaine is a senior at Western Michigan University. She's majoring in computer science, the minor in computer information systems, and has a strong passion for the developer community. She obviously is an awesome volunteer with the Women Who Code Python community. She's also a founder and lead of the Google Developer Student Club chapter at her school, and is organizer for the Google Developer Group Cloud Twin Cities. Her interests mainly lie in software engineering and cloud development, with a desire to pursue a career as a software engineer and developer advocate. And now I'm going to hand the microphone to Elaine.
Thank you so much, Eliza, and I'll go ahead and share my screen as well to continue off where we left off. All right. Okay, so starting from our goal of this resume workshop series is that we want to empower individuals to stand out during their job search process, in addition to teaching how to effectively create strong resumes, and will guide you in creating projects that are suitable to be added to your resumes. So it's usually the case that you attend resume workshops where it's like, oh yeah, this is what you should format your resume to look like to stand out as a candidate. But what about the projects? I think that especially during my time at Western, I hear a lot from my peers that, oh, could we include projects from our classes? What kind of projects will actually make us stand out in general? So this is where we'll help you actually curate those perfect projects. And I did want to mention, if you're applying to a specific role, say in cloud development, you want to make sure your projects align to what you're applying to. So it's not too random, say randomly cloud development and then machine learning, something like that. You want to make sure that it's more cohesive. With that said, our schedule so far would be as today, cloud development, and from 2 weeks from now, we have data analytics. 2 weeks from then, it's web development, and maybe we might have another series on another area, but I'm not gonna expose that real quick. But also, we will have an interview workshop at the end of the series. And to keep in touch with us, our Slack channel is Resume Booster Projects. That's where we'll post all the links from the events. And if you had any troubleshooting questions, feel free to drop it in that channel and we'll just reach out to you and help you then. The motive of that channel is so that we have a community to keep in touch. So you say that you want to have a study group with someone, you could definitely use that channel as well. And we'll go ahead and dive into the topic real quick in cloud development. And I did want to mention that we'll be focusing on Google Cloud Platform today. And yeah, that's where we'll be looking into our projects for. The overview is that the main problem statement is how can we determine the time needed to reach our destination? And with that said, I'm gonna show you a quick link. Let me move this real quick. Okay. So we're gonna specifically look into using a Google Cloud Platform API, specifically their Maps API, specifically Directions API. And if you look at the overview, it basically just says Directions lets you calculate directions between locations. There's a lot of features for each API. This one specifically, it will calculate the route for you. Say that you wanted to use a different travel mode, you wanted to walk there instead of drive there, it will also calculate the appropriate route for you. And I'm gonna drop this overview link into the chat so you could take a look at it. But basically, we'll be looking at using specifically or looking at how to get the traffic details. So traffic information is what we want to look at specifically. So as you can see at the sidebar over here, there are a lot of things you can get from here. Say that you want to get the bounds, the directions, and even the pathway really, but we want to focus on just one concept, making sure that you grasp the concept of how to use the API in general, how to request a response, and how to navigate through the response. So as you can see, it provides the information called duration in traffic, and optionally you can provide the travel mode. If not specified, it will be driving, and you have to include departure time in the parameter. So if you're not familiar with requesting or getting over HTTP requests, usually the case is that you provide a URL and then some parameters at the back, things like your API key or like over here, departure time. And it will provide a response from you. So this is somewhat the base code snippet that we'll have to look into. So as you can see, it uses requests, the module from Python requests, and it uses a get request and provides all these parameters. Parameters include origin, destination, waypoints we can actually ignore, it's optional, but departure time is mandatory. We definitely need that, and key as well. So that said, moving back into the slides real quick, today's goal is just to learn to develop in a cloud-first mindset, specifically using Google Cloud Platform. So we'll start by hosting code in our own private Git repository, which is the cloud source repository feature on GCP. And we'll also store our data on cloud storage, which is per se one of the databases on GCP. And we'll also utilize the directions API. A few other nooks and crannies, things like how to navigate GCP in general is definitely one of our goals as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. What you need to do is actually open up Google Cloud Console. And I'm going to drop that in the chat as well. Okay. So as you can see, that's the website link to Google Cloud Console. And if you haven't created an account yet, we'll just guide you through that today. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You could even use your existing Google account to create that GCP account actually. So with that said, I actually opened up a quick console already. This is what it looks like when you first enter. Obviously I have some information, things like projects, but we're not going to look into that. So if you don't have an account yet, you'll have to look into the top right corner, and then there should be a button to sign in or create a contact or create an account as well. That's it. Did anyone have any questions on this factor on creating an account? Do you need more time to create your account, get things set up before we create our project? Oh, I lost the chat. Nope, I found it. Okay. Can I make the screen bigger? Yes. Let me try to zoom in. It is not okay. I'll just zoom in from here. Does this look better? Yeah, of course. Perfect. So yeah, you want to make sure you have an account going, and you'll probably have to set up billing account as well. Exactly, the account's linked to your Google account. That's why it's just so much easier to navigate per se. I wouldn't say that other cloud platforms or providers aren't easy to navigate. It's just that with Google Cloud, it syncs across all of your Google Workspace. So things like Gmail and all that, because it's also a cloud. So it just provides a lot of synchronization per se. But yeah, okay. And let's go ahead and looking at setting up our billing account. Okay.
Oh, someone asked if you could please repeat the last step.
Yes, of course. Um, Basically just creating your account. So it could be add account, or if you had at the first step, maybe create account or sign in. So you just want to either you want to create an account for another email, or if you wanted to link it and sync it to your own Gmail, you can definitely do that. I actually have two accounts on GCP, one being my Western email, one being my personal email. So for today, I'm just going to use my personal email. Yeah. Okay, perfect. And so I did also want to mention that today's workshop will be very much a beginner slash introductory workshop. So we just want to make sure that you grasp the concepts perfectly before diving into things like the exact features or the exact concept behind every resource. That's going to take too much time. We want to make sure that you're able to explore by yourself after this series. So after you've created your account, you've signed in, you want to go into billing. You want to make sure that you have a billing account set up. So what you're gonna do, I'm not gonna show you just because for private reasons, I can't really show you. So you just want to name your account and you want to provide your credit card details, things like that, and you will be good to go. Okay, and that's it. I'm actually gonna dive right into creating a project. So over here, as you can see, at the top right, not top right, beside the search bar, there's this little button. It shows you all of your projects basically. And yes, in terms of billing, I'm just gonna reply to Claudia's question real quick. There is a free tier for almost all of the resources on GCP. So if you look into, say you wanted to look on compute engine, GCP pricing, free tier maybe. And okay, we're gonna look into compute engine. So compute engine is basically a virtual machine feature on GCP. It shows you all of the free tiers here. Things like, okay, you get about 30 gigs of standard persistent disk. And then if you pass that, you can either create a budget or an action whereby if you pass that, you're gonna stop that resource entirely, or you just let it flow. And usually the case is that if you're using or creating a personal project, you almost never pass the free tier just because they provide a good amount, and it's usually for businesses. So individuals really can make good use of that. Yes, there's a kill switch basically, but you have to make sure you have to set it up, or else it doesn't. It's not enabled. Made a mistake on AWS, like, oh no, I hope you got your money back. Maybe. Basically, I also want to mention, if you are a first timer on GCP, you get $300 credits for about a month. So definitely utilize that for that 1 month, explore all the resources and get your hands dirty, right? Oh yeah, so that's billing and looking back into a project. So how GCP organizes its resources and billing is by a project. So you have an organization. Your organization is basically your parent, your root folder, and you want to organize your projects into, or resources into, its own projects to determine things like who gets permission to this resource, who gets administrative privileges to that resource, and in terms of how you want to execute your billing plan. So if your billing plan is associated to only your resource, there's a high chance that say that it goes over budget, it doesn't affect anything else. So yeah, we want to always try to create a project into its own folder and then its own resource. The hierarchy it can be fun. Let me go search real quick, hierarchy GCP. best practices maybe. Okay. Perfect. I will drop this in the link as well. Okay, so you could see over here, you have your organization, you have your folders, and under folders, you have your product, which is another folder. And under your product, you have more projects and resources. So your billing account is managed as such, and your permissions can be based on folder or just resources. Let me just drop that in the chat. Okay, perfect. And let's go ahead and create a new project. So I'm gonna name our project. So I'm horrible at naming. Does anyone want to give me a creative name to start off with?
Python Bunny.
Python Bunny, I love that. All right. And go ahead and look at this little warning. So basically your project name or your project ID cannot be changed. Things like there are a few limitations to other resources as well. You can't really very freely change a few things. Just a heads up, I'm not gonna give it an organization. It's gonna be standalone. Let's do create. Okay. Oh, okay. That's fine. Beyond that. Why is that? That's interesting. Let me try to create another. Okay, so Python Bunny. Okay. This is the first time I'm getting a create project error. That's interesting. All right. So now that you've created a project, you want to make sure that you're working in that project so that you're not using the resources under a different project in case you get built differently. And with that said, under your project or that drop-down list, you want to click on that project. And as you can see, the ID is a little different from what you may name it to be. Okay, so that's our project. And now we want to go ahead and start working in cloud source repository. So basically think of it as your private GitHub platform on GCP. With that said, you have to enable APIs first. So we're gonna go into APIs and services. Again, it's towards the left under the navigation menu, and we have it pinned. But if you don't have it pinned, well, it's actually pinned on default. You can actually search it right up here. So we're just gonna do APIs and services. So not all APIs provided by GCP are automatically enabled. Some are enabled by default, like cloud storage, but things like cloud source repository, you have to enable it on your own. So back there on the home page, you want to click on enable APIs and services. And under here, let's go ahead and search for cloud source repositories APIs. And we're just gonna click on this and click on enable. So we have also a few resources being provided under the API Explorer. So if you search GCP API Explorer, you are able to try out a few resources without affecting your actual projects. I'm going to drop this here as well. Oh, and speaking of which, another good thing to check out in terms of just setting up your cloud infrastructure in general is to use the GCP pricing estimator. So if it's GCP pricing calculator, and then, right, there we go. This helps you just calculate or estimate how much you will pay by the end of the month or year based on this resource. So things like if you want to look at compute engine, if you have one instances and all that, and you click add to estimate, they'll provide an estimate for you at the site. But yeah, and that's it. You could look at cloud source repositories. You could check out your API details. They by default have a dashboard for you. Things like errors, definitely what you want to look at, latency, and yeah, that's about it. And let's see. Okay, we'll go back. And if you scroll back to the homepage and you scroll all the way down, you could see all the APIs that are enabled and things like their metrics, basically. We're just gonna go into cloud source repository. We're trying to open up their web page. Give me a second. And finds out a question. So all we did was enable the APIs and services. Yes, we only enabled the APIs and services specifically for cloud source repository. And this is the exact link for cloud source repository. Let me go ahead and drop it for you. I'm not seeing it here. It might be too zoomed in. But anyways, yeah. So now you want to go ahead and look at that platform. Just try to open it beside your GCP platform. And you want to go ahead and okay, it might be a little different for you. Let's see. Okay. Tell me if this looks different for you. Is this what you guys see as well for the cloud source repository platform? Okay, perfect. Crystal said, okay, get started. Basically, it's probably because you don't have a repository. So it's the same thing. If you have it differently though, it's the same as get started. It's just gonna be add repository. And then we're gonna create our new repository from here. So obviously you can connect to GitHub or Bitbucket, but we're just gonna create one ourselves. Let's go ahead and say continue. Give it a name. We're gonna say calculate traffic duration. And you wanna select the correct project. This is very important. And this is basically the rule of thumb for every resource on GCP. So I'm gonna click on the Python bunny one, and then we're gonna do create. And as you can see, they give a few instructions on how you wanna manage or edit your repo. So we're gonna start with using the Google Cloud SDK. And with this said, you can go two ways. One, you can develop locally on your local machine, or if you wanted to use Cloud Shell. So Cloud Shell is basically a free tier of Google's virtual machine. They provide 5 gigabytes. And the only problem is that they don't really save your session, especially if you change projects, things like that. It's more volatile, but it helps in terms of you wanted to do something more temporary, or if you don't want to migrate everything locally. So yeah, and another good thing about Cloud Shell is that they have Google Cloud SDK already installed for you. So if you wanted to develop on your local machine, you actually have to start off by downloading Google Cloud SDK. So if you type this, okay. From here, you can look for your own OS and then download accordingly. And fun fact, if you're using a Mac, you could use the brew package to just download. So it's just gonna be brew install Google Cloud SDK, and you should be good to go. Yeah. And with that said, let's go ahead and move into our Cloud Shell. So as you can see, I wanted to mention real quick, this little thing over here will be your project ID. But if you don't have that set, you actually have to go ahead and set Google Cloud config, set project, and your project ID as mentioned here. So you just want to make sure that you're working in the right project, basically. All right, and I see a message from Cynthia. You mentioned that you saw it differently. Were you able to catch up, or do you want me to help you out later on? Instance we created. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll help you out later on. For Claudia, this shell is not, we haven't created that instance basically. So if you were to look at compute engine, there is nothing there for now. So it's basically provided for everyone, and it's free for some limitations, obviously. And Sue asked, is it user data or application data? Where or what exactly? For so I'm not quite sure if I get your question, sorry. So if you wanted to clarify more. Claudia, okay, shell to communicate. Yes, we want to use shell to communicate with the service, and also we don't have to move locally where we have to download the SDK and things like that. Oh, okay. You created credentials. Oh, okay. Alrighty. Okay. Moving on. Where were we? Oh yeah, we're gonna create our repo. So it's just gonna be gcloud init. We might not have to, let me just write this. So you're just gonna copy from that cloud source repository that you have, you hit enter, and you just wanna authorize. Okay. And gcloud, reinitialize with new settings. I'm just gonna say, okay. And I'm logging in. So you might have different prompts. And if so, all you want to do is make sure that you pick the right cloud project and at the right account as well. So I'm gonna use number 3 because that is my project ID. Okay, perfect. But basically it helps you init things like your project ID, your account, your location maybe. And then we're gonna go ahead and clone this repository to this local Git repository. But before that, I wanna go ahead and create a folder for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and type in make directory, and that's specifically going to be Python. Oh wait, no, let's not do that. Let's do bunny. Okay, so I'm gonna move into bunny, and I want to clone the repository here so that it's not on my home path. And so it's just gonna be, you can copy straight because they actually configured the values for you. That's amazing. So it's gcloud source repos clone, and then the name of your repo and your project. So copy that. We're gonna paste it here. Okay, so yes, it's an empty repository, no worries. To check if your repository has been cloned properly, you want to go ahead and type in ls for list all the files that's currently in your directory, and we're gonna go ahead and just change our directory into that duration. Perfect. And with that said, let's go ahead and open up or enable our directions API. So you successfully created a private Git repository on cloud source repositories. So this will basically act as your version control platform. And if you wanted to push any changes, you could use this. Let's go ahead and open up or enable a different API this time. So this is where we're actually going to dive into the directions API. Same thing under APIs and services. You want to make sure you look under enable APIs and services. And then you want to click enable APIs and services, and you're going to type in directions API. Fun fact, under all of these APIs here, you can actually just go ahead and look at all the various APIs that they provide. They have documentation links and tutorial links as well. And it's just a one-stop platform to check out all the resources GCP has. So under directions API, we want to click on the one that looks like that. And as you can see, there should be a pricing somewhere. Oh wait, might not be. Okay. Some of them have a pricing table over here where it kind of just lists how they charge you for that. So let's go ahead and hit enable. So specifically for directions API, I think they have a quota of maybe 200 calls per month. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, I could definitely search that. And as you can see, this is checked where you can create budget alerts to help you stay on top of your spending. And I definitely want that. Oh yeah, so it's $200 monthly for the free tier. And we're gonna go ahead and enable all Google Maps API for this specific project. So say that you were working under a different project, you may not be able to use this API. So keep that in mind. You don't have to copy it now, you can access it later. And we're just gonna open up the Google Maps platform. Okay, I'll just open it here then. Okay, cool. All right, we're gonna select the restriction type for it to be only an API restriction, just because things like we only want it to be accessible for one specific API, which is directions API, and not all maps related API. You could definitely also use IP addresses, things like you want a specific machine to be able to access this API. You're going to use IP addresses or apps or HTTP referrers. So let's go ahead and choose directions API and say okay and restrict key. You definitely want to restrict your key. That's the main goal. Okay, and okay, that's it. You have your Google Maps platform up. And from here, let's go ahead and add more restrictions maybe. Okay, so under Google Maps platform, click on credentials. Okay. Let's actually leave it. Yeah, let's leave it for now. But if you wanted to use other methods of credentials, such as an OAuth or an actual service account, definitely feel free. The service account is usually resource-based. So you have a service account for Google Maps APIs or a service account for Compute Engine. And under each service account, there's probably a few different roles, things like you can manage or delete this instance, or if you wanted to only add this instance, or you are only able to view this instance, that's where service accounts comes into play. And it's not log in, like you can't log into it. That's why it's so secure. Okay, that said, if you're set up with that, we want to go ahead and start actually coding. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this called Open Editor, where they open a text editor for you. Claudia mentioned, or Claudia asked, are service accountability for admins? No, service accounts are typically for resources, but you can associate a group of people under I want to say IAM group. So IAM is Identity and Admin Management. And if you associate them under a group, they can access a few service accounts. So it kind of branches out like that. How did I get to the editor? Basically under terminal, you want to click on the button called Open Editor. Yeah. And as you can see, I am in the wrong project per se. Let me go ahead and change it. So I'm gonna change to Bunny, and let's see if it changes. Okay, if it doesn't, I'm just gonna go ahead and continue from here instead then. So you could see your home tab here, your home directory, and I am going into Bunny and calculate traffic duration, and I'm just gonna go ahead and create a new file from here. So it's just gonna be our main. Oh, no. Let's go ahead and save it as, oh, okay. Save as main.py. It's the easiest. So as you can see, it's under my Bunny directory, and under the Git repository, calculate traffic duration. And from here, let's go ahead and get started. I realized that we're running a little low on time, so I'm just gonna speed up a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. So how we wanna use the API is to actually type in the latitude and longitude version of the origin and destination. So say that it's not just a state or a city. We want to give an actual address. We want to provide the latitude and longitude, and also the API key. Speaking of API key, we have to go back and get that API key. Okay, so over here, let's go ahead and hit show key. Let's copy that real quick. Okay, close. So I'm gonna go ahead and create our first function, which is let's go ahead and say get API key. Oh wait, no. Let's do initialize. So the point of this function is to return base URL with API key. Okay. So I'm gonna do, it's gonna be URL equals, oh wait, okay. I'm running around, my mind's running around, sorry about that. But basically, we have to create set up directions API client. So whenever you want to use an API under GCP, you have to set up the client, and from the client, you are able to proceed with getting requests. So, oh wait, okay, remove this real quick. Let's go ahead and say, what if I did, okay, I'm just gonna speed up in terms of time. So let's go ahead and just say get duration in traffic. We're gonna skip a few things. But yeah, and then the base URL is gonna be HTTPS maps.googleapi.com/maps/api/directions/json. Can drop that in the chat as well. Okay. And from here, we can provide the parameters. But before we provide the parameters, we want to get the latitude and longitude, as I mentioned. So we're going to use the package called geopy.geocoders, and we're going to import specifically, I will not try to pronounce that name, to create a package to help us code the actual latitude and longitude from the address. So if we were to run this, actually, it might face a problem because we haven't downloaded GeoPy. So if that's the case for you, the first thing you want to do is pip install GeoPy in that terminal that is under that editor, and you will be good to go. Okay, so let me just run this and see if it works. I'm just gonna say Python 3 main.py. You want to make sure that you're under the right directory. Enter, and if it runs, then it's fine. Oh, I just realized I typed goopy. But anyways, it's GeoPy. And we're also gonna use a module called requests to help us make HTTP requests. So yeah, and with that said, let's go ahead and create a function called get latitude and longitude. So we're gonna go ahead and have a parameter called address. So it has to be a string, and we're also gonna return a string. So an address could be, an example that I had is to have the address from Field Museum all the way to the Starbucks Reserve Roastery, I think. Yeah, Starbucks Reserve Roastery at Chicago. So it's just gonna take in, or it's gonna create an object of that GeoPy module. No, not him. And then user agent is basically, as you can see here, I think it just says, it's the app that you want to name it. So I'm just gonna say Bunny. And under the locator, let's go ahead and find the actual latitude and longitude. So location will be locator.geocode. Then again, this isn't GCP related. This is its own package by GeoPy. So if you wanted to search it, you could search it on your own. And you're just going to type in address. Okay. So you're going to construct the object, and then you're going to find the geocode of the address. And you can go ahead and return the string version of the latitude, and we want it to be in this format, latitude, comma, longitude. Okay, and so with that said, we're just going to format it as simple as possible as such, and then string, another add, so concatenate that, and then longitude. Perfect. So using that function, let's go ahead and get the address. So I'm just gonna give a default. So my origin latitude, longitude, which is the Field Museum at Chicago, is gonna be get lang long, and then the address is provided here. And I'm gonna just type it in here. And my destination is gonna be get lat long, and the Starbucks Reserve Roastery address. Okay, and from there, you can go ahead and make your API call. So it's just gonna be a simple little, you have to provide parameters. So, that long hyperlink that you used to request your API key, your origin, your destination. That's what we need. So we have to provide parameters with origin. And I have my origin up there already, my destination. So my destination is above, oh, I spelled it dest. And the one thing you have to provide is the departure time. So you could say now by default. So you want to reach now or leave now. And if you don't provide that, your request will not provide the right response that you want, assuming that you're not looking for the traffic information. And the key is going to be our API key. I think I copied it. Oh, no, I didn't. So I'm just going to scroll down here. I'm just going to show key and copying it. I absolutely love that the UI of GCP has that shortcut copy button. Definitely saves a lot of time. Okay, that's the first thing. And if you want to go ahead and return the response as a JSON format, you could see the results as such. And I'm going to answer Claudia real quick. Are these parameters listed in the directions API docs? Yes. So if you look specifically into a specific feature, they should provide all the details on what parameters you have to provide. The main parameters that's mandatory for all features is origin, destination, and API key. So I actually went ahead before this event to test out using this platform called Postman. It just shows an example platform or an example request. So as you can see, it provides geocoded waypoints and routes and something else. I'm not sure what the other one is, but under routes, that's where you get your traffic information. So it's after bounds, after copyrights, after legs. Oh wait. And if you scroll, it should be at over here. It's under legs, under duration and traffic. So this just provides a clear visual on how you want to parse your response. So you want to look firstly for routes, and then under routes, because it provides a list, you want to look at the first item in the list, and under that first item in the list, you want to look for legs, and under legs, another list. So you want to look for the first item in legs, and then you want to look for duration in traffic. All in all, the exact parsing information is rather lengthy. I'm just going to copy from here. Okay. Oh, I just realized I didn't provide a request, so I'm just going to do that. But yeah, this is basic, the basic usage of the request package. So you're going to say request, you're going to send a get method, and you're going to provide that URL, and then you're going to provide parameters. You can provide more things like the actual headers and all that. So that's why the request package is just so much easier to use rather than typing it all out. Anyways, from response.json, let's go ahead and just run this real quick and see how it goes. And looking into the chat, me asked before moving it to a repo, be sure to put the key in a verify crucial repo that's public. Exactly. And then Sue said Windows V, let you see past information. All right, thank you guys for also communicating in the chat. Let's go ahead and try this out. I'm just gonna run this method, get duration and traffic. So it's Python 3 main.py. Oh, I did not print. Sorry about that. Okay. Printing, and as you can see, they gave us a response. So it's really lengthy. I'm not gonna go through that, but I showed you what you had in that Postman, and then basically the parsing information should look something like this. So it's JSON. Let's go ahead and say, I'm copying that. Basically the first information, which is routes, the first item of routes, legs, first item of legs, duration and traffic, and specifically the text. So if we printed that, how it might look is 29 minutes. Perfect. And obviously you could print and format it better. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and look at storage. I hope I'm not holding you guys back too much. But for cloud storage, that's where creating the client comes into place. Like I mentioned earlier, didn't get to execute that. But basically to call a resource, you have to create a client object of that resource before you are able to modify it, basically. And let's get started with creating a cloud storage bucket. So under pinned, there is cloud storage. And as you can see, I don't have a bucket created yet. Buckets are basically folders. Let's go ahead and create a folder. And from there, let's go ahead and name our bucket. And this is gonna be a permanent name, so you aren't able to change it, basically. I'm just gonna say traffic logs and continue. Oh, it's taken. Bunny traffic logs. Okay, perfect. And where you choose to store your data will affect how much you will have to pay. So location pricing, as you can see over here, multi-region basically means that it's multiple regions in the United States. Dual regions is just 2 regions, and region is, well, 1 region. And you can search on your own what is a region, what is a zone, the difference of that. Basically, it helps in terms of you want to provide or create an app that is located or catered to the Southeast Asian market. Your regions and zones should be closer to that or to Southeast Asia, so that there is lower latency, things like that. You want to keep that in mind. And we're just gonna choose multi-region, leave it as it is. And then storage class is how frequently you access your data, and that will also affect pricing. So things like archive, it's kind of just like a data store. It just, you kind of leave it as it is. Don't really touch it like once a year maybe. And then the GCP provides a lot of credits or discounts for how you use your storage. So if you consistently use archive, they might provide you a 20% discount on that persistent usage. So you can look into that calculator to actually estimate your price as well. And go ahead and hit continue. I'm going to hit continue. I'm going to prevent public access. So I don't want public service to access this. And we're also going to keep it as it is. And this is how you want to protect your data. I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm going to create, confirm. Okay, so I have bunny traffic logs here, and I want to go ahead and create a file, maybe. Okay, so let's go ahead, and if I hit upload files, never mind. Let me see. So I wanted to mention real quick, if you ever forget all of the what is it called, commands on how to create an instance or modify things like that. Usually it's always maybe gcloud or gsutil, and then you could always say help. So this help flag will always help you provide you a manual page. Okay. So it is very zoomed in right now. So yeah, but anyways, okay. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the cloud storage API maybe. So what we're trying to do here is, instead of printing out that traffic duration into our command line or terminal, we want to store it into a text file on cloud storage. So for that, we have to go ahead and enable our cloud storage API. Okay, it should be enabled by default, but let's go ahead and type out the code real quick. So it is, okay. Under, let's do before get duration traffic, we're gonna say define write to bucket. And then under write to bucket, I want to put the message, should be a string as well. And we're not going to return anything. But this first thing you want to do is create a client object. So it's going to be, let's do client equals, oh, in fact, I'm going to pass real quick. So I haven't imported the package for that. So the package is import, oh no, from Google Cloud. Cloud import storage. Okay. And from here, it's just gonna be the storage dot client object, and let's specify the project to be project ID is Feisty Mason 376500. What if that is, and you can go ahead and get the bucket, but before that, if we run it, I assume that it might prompt us to download this cloud storage APK. Let's go ahead and run that real quick. Okay, never mind then. It's not prompting, should be fine. All right, so once you create the client, you want to access the bucket itself. And then from the bucket, you want to access the file or create the file. So it's just going to be get the bucket, which is client.bucket, and the name of your bucket. So it's bunny traffic log, I think. Don't remember my bucket. Yeah, oh, bunny traffic logs with an S. I am so extra. Do you need to call the method for write to bucket? Yes. You have to, let me see. Specifically under Python, it's cloud storage API. Okay, so the method, I'm also going to change this to create write to bucket. One thing you could do definitely is to check if there exists the file in that bucket before you try to create a bucket. Or you could just do what I'm gonna do right now, which is immediately creating that file. But it's safer if you use the if else option. Anyways, it's just gonna be find cloud storage. Okay. Let's do okay. In fact, let's just try to write into that object in that bucket without creating it, see if it works. I'm gonna create a blob for it. So it's blob bucket dot blob and then the file name. So let's name it logs.txt or traffic duration dot text. So it's just going to be a blob object, and with that blob object, you can finally use it as a file to write to it. So with blob.open write as a nickname for it, F, I'm going to use, I'll say f.write hello world. Oh wait, no, not F, hello world. We're going to do message. Write message. Okay. And because you use the with option, you don't necessarily have to close it. It will close for you. Okay, let's see if I'm missing anything. If not, let me try to scroll this up a little bit. Okay, we're gonna duration equals, we're gonna call that, and then we're gonna get the write create or create write to bucket, and it will be duration as the message. Let's try that out, see if that works. See why. Okay, so there's no error messages. That's what we're looking for. Let's scroll down. Let's go ahead and refresh our bucket, see if there is. Oh, okay, you don't have to create a blob apparently. So you can straight away use that method to write, and you will go ahead and just write accordingly. And if you wanted to append rather than write, that's gonna be a different command, I believe. And also you could write binary. So things same like how you would write or modify files in Python, you could do that in GCP as a blob. So in traffic duration.text, tree. Okay, you could see it as it is. And then let's go ahead and try to look at that. I'm just gonna start preview. Let's go ahead and try to download it. Okay. And if we opened it, perfect. It says 29 minutes. So that's what we want to do. If you want to format it more, definitely feel free. So you don't only have to or be able to write to that blob, that cloud storage bucket. You could also read from it, get the properties, or even modify, like create a bucket, delete a bucket, and remove a bucket, things like that. Yeah, so that's cloud storage in general. And let me go ahead and see if there's more. Okay, I want to try to zoom this out so you can see it better. Okay. Okay, here's my editor. Go ahead and open our bunny folder. And we have our main.py. So you have 3 functions. You could definitely create another main function to actually call your functions rather than leave it as it is over here. What we want to do now is actually push all the changes into our Git repository on CloudSource. So someone previously mentioned to actually hide the API key so it's not pushed to that repo. Definitely think about that. Yes, our API key is definitely very important just in case someone tries to be a bad actor and try to use your API key and somehow go over your quota. We don't want that. But your cloud source repository, from what I know, is private, so it's not public unless you specify it to be. So I'm just gonna leave it as it is, and I will also remove that after this session as well. But yeah, so from here, what you want to do is how you would always use Git in general. So you want to add all your changes. And you want to create a commit message. I believe I'm logged in, but if not, you might want to config your user email and username, how you would the initial setup of Git in general as well. But let's try committing. So it's implement traffic log for me. Okay, so I don't have to config that apparently. Yeah, so once you're done with that, it's gonna be git push origin, and I had it set to master. So let's try that. All right, so you've successfully uploaded your code onto cloud source repository. And if we were to look into that, let's see, oh, here, okay. Repository. I want to see if I can open that. It's saying that it's currently empty. Oh, there we go. Just need time to refresh. But yeah, once you've done that, you should see something like this, or your main.py. That's where you've added your code, things like that. You can also look at creating branches. It's obviously not as similar to GitHub, but it is private, and you could use this to interact with other Google Cloud resources. So things like you wanted to pull this repository from Google Cloud or Google Compute Engine. It's much more easier, and it syncs basically across the resources. That's basically what we had to do, or what I had for today. I'm gonna go ahead and dive into the slides real quick. Some of the next steps you could think of doing with what we have so far is to think about the continuous integration or continuous delivery of pushing to GitHub, or not GitHub, but cloud source repository. So you can use Cloud Build. It's a resource to manually deploy applications and your repos is based on the triggers that you have. So if I looked at this real quick, it is in the genre of DevOps. So if you wanted, or if you're interested in looking into that, so it is a fully serverless platform for scale. It helps in terms of automating your deployments, so creating a pipeline for you. It will also commit to deploy in minutes, and it has SLSA level 3 compliance encryption at rest. So that is Cloud Build if you wanted to explore DevOps in general. And I did want to mention this project, though it's not entirely suitable for your resume if you leave it as it is for now. You should definitely add to it, or make it a fully functioning program. So right now it just logs 29 minutes, something like that. If you wanted to add more or gain more from the response from the directions API, get more insights from that, you should definitely do that. And you should also look into extending things like Cloud Build. And from Cloud Build, you could also look at so mentioned earlier, instead of storing the API key on the code itself, you want to probably use an encrypted feature or resource to help you encrypt that key. So there is this feature called Cloud Key Management Service, and it will basically provide you a cryptographic key, and you could rotate it. And with that cryptographic key, you could encrypt your API keys or any information that you want, really, so that it's not accessible or identifiable as visually. So I will also, let me go ahead and drop this in the chat for cloud build. And then for key management service, if I'm not mistaken, it's relatively new. Okay, it should be relatively new. The API reference is only on version 1, but basically you can encrypt and decrypt keys. That's the main goal for sure. And there is an overview or a tutorial, a quick start basically on how to get started with this. So if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. And lastly, you could start creating a cron job using Cloud Scheduler. So a cron job is basically a task scheduler where it will run on a schedule, obviously. So say that, so for this traffic logs, if you wanted to make it more of a daily thing, you want to get a notification on a daily basis, you can create a cron job for every day at the specific time. So this is useful, say that you go to work at this time every day, and you want to kind of gauge how the traffic is on that specific day. You could do a cron job to get more information using the directions API as well. Let me go ahead and search cron job or cloud scheduler. So it's another resource on GCP to help you run cron jobs easily. So we have that. Okay, thanks for joining us, Naomi. So this cloud scheduler, it helps in terms of creating that cron job. Personally, it's a pet peeve of mine, but it helps really provide good value to creating cron job, right? It's much easier in terms of user friendliness as well. But yeah, so that's kind of the next steps on how you want to really elevate this project to actually be eligible for your resume. And you want to also you could also, look into other projects. So this was more of a beginner introductory project that you want to include on your resume. Other project ideas include, there are a lot of references online, and that's personally one of my favorite items about GCP is that there is this huge developer community devoted to helping you be more in tune with GCP. That's why you get all these tutorials. And rule of thumb, I wanted to mention that you want to start by determining your areas of interest. So cloud is a huge topic, but how can you actually elevate that and fine tune it so that it's based on your interest, right? So looking at open tutorials, what we have here. Oh, okay. It shows or learn with the Google Cloud community. You could start by looking at the areas itself. So big data, machine learning, IoT, development, test, DevOps. It's really a huge genre. And if you need a cheat sheet, I remember there is one. Cheat sheet. Here we go. It's really concise. It helps you in terms of what resources you may need. So which brings us to my next bullet point, which is determine a tech stack or resources to use. So obviously it's great to kind of dip your toes in every resource possible on GCP, but it may not be necessary for the job that you're applying for, unless it's something like you want to be a cloud engineer. Then obviously you need the basics of at least the common resources. But yeah, definitely determine the areas that you want to look into. So storage maybe, and the tech stack, such as, or you want to specifically look into cloud firestore or file store, and how you want to work with that. So you could base your project ideas on that, and you could also look at all these how-to guides or all tutorials, I think. Yeah, all these tutorials on how to create a small little project based on a few GCP resources. And that's kind of it. That's all I have for today. Oh, I did want to mention a few other ways to level up in the cloud in general is to get certifications. So GCP provides a lot of certifications. I'm personally a certified associate cloud engineer. So if you look at GCP certifications, all of these will pop up. If you wanted to look at AWS as well, there is a lot of certifications out there, and it just validates your skills in general. Another thing is to get hands-on labs. So one thing about all these cloud providers is that they provide a lot of learning material for you. GCP specifically, they provide this platform called Cloud Skills Boost, previously Quick Labs, and you can get hands-on lab practice, and it provisions a temporary cloud environment for you, so you don't have to worry about billing and things like that. As for AWS, I recently learned that there is a game-like learning resource out there, where it's kind of cool. It's kind of really cool actually. So AWS, I want to say game, maybe. Um, there we go. It says introduce a metaverse-like game. Oh no, I have ad block. To train people how to use AWS. I saw the ad for it. It looks really cool. Get your own character and kind of just go through a city maybe and learn the resources. So it's a really fun way to learn about cloud. But yeah, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I will move on to Q&A if there's any. If not, thank you so much for staying with me for the whole day. Not whole day, but you get what I mean.
Wow, thanks so much, Elaine. It's an amazing presentation. I'm glad like we didn't limit you to like the shorter time period. Yeah, everyone's in the was recording too. I'm seeing a lot of thank yous in the chat for such an informational session. Thank you, great tips, guidance, learning how to use the API, and like I think also we'll share later in the Slack, like project ideas, and like also said, if like you're currently interviewing for like a cloud role or like looking into like pivoting to that like industry, like we'll have like the mock interview sessions. And yeah, I know you mentioned the first one, like the resume booster, so we'll also talk about like with the project, if you built something with this, like, you know, how do you talk to it like with the hiring manager and the team like successfully. And yeah, you're also with the Google developer group, so you're like immersed in that world.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zeno conference for you. So, yeah, there's telling you, Elaine, thanks for great tips, guidance. This is amazing. Thank you so much. And informational session. So yeah, thank you so much, Elaine. This
Yeah, of
really great
course.
event. Yeah. And did we have any Q&A in the chat for Elaine? Give him a few seconds. Yeah, if not, I think otherwise you'll be sharing the same links you shared in the chat, like in our Slack community, Women to Code Python and Resume Booster projects
Yes.
channel. And you said, and also, you know, you're still a student, so we'll get to it like when we can for replying. But yeah, okay, so yep, ready to go join those channels. I think what I'm planning to do is the 1st of February, there'll be a message posted about different Slack channels related to like our ongoing event series. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you there. Um, that's it. There's no questions. So Elaine, thank you so much for this amazing second session. You're really like in-depth knowledge, and like you create the information to like be digestible and not too overwhelming. So it's like we can follow along with each step. So it's really grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Eliza, as well.
You're welcome. All right, so then I'll just end the call. So good morning, good
Mhm.
afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.